Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. Today starts a wonderful week of lifestyle medical professionals from the UK. We're calling it UK Lifestyle Medicine Week. And my first guest is Dr. Leila Dehghan. Please welcome her to the show. It's very nice to meet you.
Hi, Chef AJ. It's really nice being here. I feel really excited, actually.
I can't wait because it's so cool that you guys are doing in the UK what other countries like India and the United States are doing, and just getting so interested in lifestyle medicine with all the different specialties. And I just love it.
Yes, we are quite fortunate that Dr. Shirin Hassan actually started this. So yes, we are very happy.
Well, she's the one that introduced me to all of the wonderful guests that are going to be on this week, and she's coming back on too. So I can't wait. So I'd love to hear your story, because even the plant-based part aside, there's so many interesting levels to it, because you're a doctor, you're a nutritionist, you're a martial artist. And the fact that you gave up being a doctor is just amazing to me. So tell us that story.
Sure. Well, I mean, I was a doctor. I'm not a doctor anymore. I went into medicine because I enjoyed it. I liked it. And I wanted to become a pediatrician. I loved working with kids, but unfortunately, I was suffering from migraines, really bad migraines. And, I actually got them at the age of 9. So it was like kind of, everybody kept telling me, you grow out of them, it will get better. But I didn't. And it's funny, even when I was at med school, people would tell me, when you finish medical school and you start working as a doctor, your migraines get better. I never understood the logic behind it, but for some reason, people thought, it will get better. So anyway, it didn't. Actually, in my case, my migraines kept getting worse and worse. And then at some point I realized that, I don't have a life. I really had no life at all. Either I was working, or I was taking time off work because of my migraine, or if I wasn't working, I was just in pain, in bed with pain. So there was no life. And I thought, that's it, I can't carry on like that. So I quit medicine. And then I became a personal trainer. I guess I thought, exercise is preventive medicine. And I also thought, I'm still working with people and helping them to be healthier. So it felt like kind of, I'm still in the same business, if you like. And, but, as I said, my migraines didn't get any better. And in the end, I was having chronic migraine, which is by definition, more than 15 days of headache per month, and 10 of them are migraine headaches. And in my case, I spent like 18, 19 days per month actually in bed with pain. And luckily, I went vegan at some point for animals. And you know how it is when you go vegan. People keep asking you questions about nutrition. And I was a PT at the time. So they were like so where do you get your protein? So I had actually to look into nutrition for the first time, in my life, the role of diet. But that was good. In a way, I was quite lucky that they kept asking me these questions. And then one day I came across a conference, which was actually organized by Dr. Shirin Hassan. I didn't know her at the time. It was called Nutrition in Medicine. And I still don't know why, but I signed up and went to that conference. And I remember, I heard about a whole food plant-based diet. That was a very new concept for me. And, that the fact that food could be medicine. It was so new. And, I had gone to med school, but I had no clue about it. And I felt like at the time, okay, if people can actually, reverse their diseases and get better, on a whole food plant-based diet, why not me? Maybe it helps me too. And I remember I came home, I signed up to any summit I could find. And actually, I remember I was watching, interviews with yourself, learning about the whole plant-based diet, what it can do. And, I was learning the difference between being a junk food vegan and being actually a healthy vegan. And then one day I decided that's it. I had enough. After spending 5 days in bed, I said, I have to change my diet. So I transitioned from a junk food vegan overnight to a whole food, no oil whole food plant-based. And within 5 days, my headaches were gone.
That's incredible. People need to hear that because you suffered for so long. I mean, the age of 9, that is very young.
Yes, it is. And I think, people don't realize that, when you have a chronic disease, there are so many different aspects to it. first of all, you have the pain. You have a degree of pain all the time. Sometimes it is mild, sometimes it is severe. Then there is the frustration that you try a new treatment, a new medication, a new drug. You go to so many different doctors, and each one is promising you that this is it, this one is going to help you. But then it doesn't. So the frustration to deal with that, and the hopelessness. And then, in my case, at some point, people in my environment, they started actually thinking, maybe you're just making it up. And they couldn't understand that, yes, I was in pain, but I still had to carry on. I mean, I had to kind of something in bed all the time, and depending on, how much you can do, because sometimes, yes, I had to be in bed. I couldn't talk, I couldn't move, I couldn't eat. The slightest movement would make me sick. But sometimes I could actually kind of manage to walk, but I didn't have the energy actually to talk to other people. So, there's so many different levels of actually being in pain. And I think people don't realize that. So it was a lot of emotional issues attached to it as well. So yes, very frustrating.
Well, migraines are debilitating. And what did the doctors say? Like, because a nine-year-old getting migraines, what did they think the reason was? Or did they give a reason?
Well, my family, my father had migraine, my aunts have migraine, so a few of my cousins have migraine. So it was almost like, okay, it runs in the family. Obviously, I did have all the investigations people have there, just to make sure that it is migraine, there isn't anything else going on. But it was like, okay, it runs in the family, and at some point she'll grow out of it, it will get better. And there's also this belief that, as you get older, it gets better. But I think that is a myth, to be honest. When I connect with other migraine sufferers, and I hear the same stories, like myself, that they don't have a life, they cannot plan anything, because when you plan something, you don't know, am I going to have a migraine? Then I have to cancel last minute. And I hear the same from other people, they feel the same, and they go to work, nobody believes them. So my story is not unique at all. So yes, and it is very common, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the same with any chronic disease. Like even people with IBS, the same thing. It becomes very socially isolating. I don't think most doctors believe that there's a connection with diet and migraines. I used to get debilitating migraines in my 40s, and I was a vegan, but I was a junk food vegan, and I don't get them anymore.
Yes, it is interesting. When it comes to migraine, a lot of doctors knew and still know that diet does play a role. And there have been a lot of studies actually looking at, what kind of foods are triggering a migraine attack. But, the problem, there is a problem with nutritional studies. It is very difficult to get people to actually write a food diary and document what they are eating and remember it. And especially, when you are in pain, that's the last thing you want to do. I remember a few doctors asked me to do it, keep track of what I'm eating and if there's any association. But when you are in pain all the time, it's really difficult to do that. So people know that diet does play a role, but I don't think they really understand the impact and how much it can actually affect you. And also, actually, a doctor told me onions, chocolate, orange, and tomatoes.
Chocolate was for me. I got to tell you, it was wonderful to figure out the trigger, but it was really sad that was the chocolate was.
Really?
Yeah. So I haven't.
Chocolate at the.
Because I was in denial about it, because I remember the doctor saying to me, a lot of times foods that are high in histamine, and chocolate is high in histamine, but I didn't want to hear it because I was a food addict, a sugar addict, and chocolate was a daily part of my life. But when I was real honest and took it out and put it in, I always triggered a migraine. So what he did is he wrote on a prescription pad, no chocolate. And that actually helped me for some reason to have it like, look, I really can't have it. And honestly, since the last day I had chocolate, November 7th, 2010, that was my last migraine.
Wow, that's really interesting, because I love chocolate, and that was actually one of my kind of concerns when I went vegan. Where am I going to get vegan chocolate? But when a doctor told me that I was a teenager at the time, that chocolate could trigger a migraine, I actually stopped having chocolate for 6 months, and it didn't help at all. And I think that is really interesting. I have never come across anybody who actually says it is chocolate. So that's really interesting to hear. Yes.
Well, you've been migraine
free, actually.
You've been migraine free for some time now.
Yes. I mean, I still, if I'm not careful with my diet, I still get a migraine. And I think that is something what people don't realize is that there is an association, and I have been experimenting with food quite a lot. I tried intermittent fasting just to see, what foods do help me more. And I have noticed, with all these like kind of new vegan options out there, I'm human, I get tempted and I want to try. And it is interesting. If I have just a small piece, then that's fine. But if I feel like, okay, I have a small piece today and then again next day, then yes, I do get a migraine. So I have to be careful. If I don't follow the diet, I do get them. Yes. Yeah. But having said that, they are never as severe as they used to be. So
that's fantastic. I know some people have even water fasted for migraines.
Yes, I don't know if I could do that. I did something similar when I was again a teenager. My uncle got me a honey. I don't know what kind of honey it was. And I was supposed just to kind of mix it with the water and have that for a few days. And I did it just for a half day. I was sick. I couldn't carry on. So
yeah, and honey's not vegan. And since you're an ethical vegan too, you wouldn't be doing that. So when did you become vegan and why?
I actually, I went vegetarian when I was at med school, when we were dissecting a human arm. I felt like, that looks very much like the meat I'm eating. So it wasn't like kind of for the animals, but I just felt like, what I'm eating could be just human flesh. And I just didn't like the idea. But I was a vegetarian on and off because I wasn't really I didn't know why anybody should be vegetarian. I didn't really have a good reason for being vegetarian. But at some point, I met a group of professional martial artists, and they were all vegetarian. And that really kind of, I don't know, I admired them. So I thought, if they are vegetarian, I want to be like them. So I'm going to be vegetarian. So I was fully vegetarian when I got involved in animal rescue. I got involved in, rescuing dogs and cats from Bosnia and Romania. And at the time I thought, oh, good, I'm vegetarian. I'm not harming any animals. And until, a fellow rescuer actually posted a video by Gary Yourofsky. And it is interesting because I was watching one of your shows where you talked to Corinne Sutton. And he said the one video which actually made him go vegan, and that is the same video by Gary Yourofsky. I watched that, and it is just an hour, no graphic images or anything. He just explained what happens, in the dairy industry. And that was it for me. I just thought, no, I can't have that anymore. So I actually went vegan then and there. But again, because I was already vegetarian, so maybe it was easier for me to go vegan. So I did it for the animals, yes.
Nice, thank you. And when did you go to medical school, and did you work as a doctor at all?
Yes, I did. When I went to med school, it was more than 20 years ago. I came to the UK once. I actually studied in Austria, in Vienna. And then I came to the UK. I worked in a hospital during summer, and I really enjoyed what they are doing here. And I thought, okay, when I graduate, I want to come to the UK. So as soon as I graduated, I actually moved to the UK. And I worked as a doctor, and I really loved what I was doing. It was one of those jobs where I felt like, oh, I'm getting paid to do something, I would have done for free. So I really enjoyed doing it, especially once I started working with children. It is so much fun working with them. It's just so different than, working with adults. But I just couldn't carry on. And, you have to do membership exams to continue to progress, in your career. And I just couldn't study, because I was always either working or in pain. So yes. So yeah.
Wow. And so how did you decide to become a nutritionist?
Well, once I transitioned, myself, and my headaches, disappeared, I couldn't believe it. It was almost like the solution was there staring at me, it was on my plate, and I had never seen it. And I just thought, I need to tell people about it. I really felt like, more people need to know about that, because, I had gone to medical school and I didn't know anything about it. So what about other people who don't even go, get the education? And I thought, okay, I did actually the Dr. Campbell's, certificate in nutrition, implant-based nutrition. But I thought I want actually to do a master's degree to really understand the basics. And also it would give me some credibility, like kind of, if I say I have actually a master's degree, so it's not like kind of self-taught kind of education. So I went back to university and got a master's degree just because I really thought people need to know about it. It was quite interesting because obviously when you go and study nutrition, I was the only vegan in the class, a class of 100 people, I was the only vegan. And the stories that, the things I heard about the plant-based diet, a few times I kept quiet, but a few times I actually had to it's interesting, I never complained in the class. I think just once I did it. It's just because I was the only one. And I thought, I don't want to say anything when I can't really defend it yet, because I didn't know that much about nutrition. But I would come home, then do my research and write to the tutors and say, yes, you said that in the class. I don't agree with you. So yes, so that's why I, became a nutritionist.
But couldn't you say, well, hey, I'm a doctor and I disagree with you?
No, I don't think that they would have actually, believed me. Or it wouldn't have made a difference to them, because we did have actually a few doctors, medical students who were doing a master's degree in nutrition as well. And it is interesting, people know that, plant-based diet is healthy, but a predominantly plant-based diet. They still believe that you need to have meat. And again, it was interesting because a few other students, when they talked to me and I said, I'm vegan, they said, good for you. And I was like, so they felt like, that's a good thing to do, being vegan. But one of them was telling me, and that was a dietitian who was doing a master's degree. She said, she tried being vegan, but she was feeling weak because of lack of protein. And I just thought, how come she doesn't know legumes? You don't need to look further. Legumes have, actually protein. So yes, it is sad that a lot of actually, students who study, dietetics or nutrition, they lack the basics, and I think it's just because it is not taught to them. So that's really sad.
Was there any pushback in your course about being vegan? Like not for you personally being vegan, but like, did they say, well, this is fine for you, but we don't want you really teaching this to your patients and clients?
Well, they didn't put it that way, but I remember one of the tutors, he was talking about the Seventh-day Adventist, studies, which says that, like, yes, a vegan diet has all these health benefits. And what he said is, yes, but they are wealthy. So he put it like that only people who are well off can actually be healthy vegans. So it's not for the average person. And another one I remember, she was actually talking about, child nutrition, and she made a diagram saying like kind of all these nutrients and where you can find it in which diet. And when it came to the vegan diet, she had put like a 0. All of them, they don't have any of those nutrients. And I actually wrote back to her and said, that is not right. You can't say that. That plant-based diets lack all these nutrients. So I had a kind of an email exchange with her. We didn't get anywhere, but she kind of apologized.
So, but it's not really being taught as part of the curriculum then in dietetic school in the UK, or maybe even in medical school.
No. As far as I know, nowhere. Some medical schools have started actually incorporating that. I know there is one in the US, but definitely not in the UK as far as I know. But there is interest in lifestyle medicine. So that's a good start. But, the sad part is, when I was actually doing a master's degree in nutrition, so it was about nutrition. And even then, nobody actually said that you can use food as medicine. If anything, they were again focused. Yes, if you have a nutrient deficiency, if you lack one vitamin or mineral, yes, you can, have it via food. But when it came to diseases, the idea was that, you have to take pills, you have to take this drug and that. And I remember a tutor said, he was talking about inflammation and omega-3 fatty acids. And he was obviously talking about fish oil. And he said, and he was talking about fish oil supplement. And he said, yes, maybe we could actually get it, by eating fish, but it would take a few months to actually see any effect. But if you take the fish oil supplement, you would see it, immediately. And I was thinking, no, first of all, you don't need the fish oil. But secondly, it took me just 5 days. Just within 5 days, I saw, the effects and the benefits.
Yeah, it must drive healthcare. Like, just as a regular person, a vegan for 44 years, this kind of stuff, this information drives me crazy. I can only imagine if you're even more educated as a doctor or nutritionist and the truth, you just want to roll your eyes sometimes, don't you?
Yes. But I feel like, veganism is about compassion. So we need to actually spread the message with compassion. We cannot start arguments with them and, just really, and it is challenging, I have to say, because, when it comes to health, I think for most people who don't suffer from a chronic disease, being 95% plant-based is enough. And but I'm talking about the whole food plant-based diet, not just a plant-based diet. So we know that in general 95% plant-based diet is enough. But if you do suffer from a chronic disease like myself, then you need to be 100%, I would say, no oil whole food plant-based.
Yeah, that's true. And that's the thing. There's such a spectrum of veganism, from, 100% fruitarian to one end to junk food vegan in the other and everything in between. There's really no one vegan diet.
That's true. That's true. And I think that's, again, another problem issue we face, actually, when the mainstream media talks about the vegan diet. The question is, what do they actually eat? You can't, I used to be junk food vegan, and I really mean junk food.
Me too. I used to have Slurpees for breakfast. I mean, I was one of the worst. For 26 years. All I ate was junk. I mean, I got the beginning of colon cancer and almost 200 pounds from it. So I hear you. Junk food veganism is not the road to health for most people.
Yeah, and I think actually, like you say that, like it was for me, one of my 3 meals was actually just like a cake, and I really thought that is food.
I know. Did you have any weight problems?
Well, that's another thing. I actually developed an eating disorder with my migraine because a doctor told me that, you shouldn't have this food. If you happen to have it, she actually taught me how to purge, how to do it. And I was a teenager, and I thought, okay, if she says it's okay, why not? But then I started using it whenever I felt like I have been eating too much, and I developed bulimia. So I did have yes, with bulimia, you kind of control your weight, isn't it? And I have always been very much into sports. So it was like kind of exercising, getting rid of the food somehow, which actually I think it added to my headaches and migraines. Now I understand that actually it made everything worse. But when I went vegan, just because at the time, it was 7 years ago, there weren't a lot of vegan kind of junk food options out there. So just because
now there's everything. I mean, there's nothing junky that you can't get vegan now. That's for sure.
That's true. And I think it's actually more challenging to be a healthy vegan now.
Yeah, I think so, because there's more temptation. In 1977, the only processed vegan food when I went vegan in 1977 there was a company, because you mentioned Seventh-day Adventist, I think it was called Worthington, where they had like this canned meat that wasn't meat. But the thing is it wasn't available anywhere near me. You had to go like all the way out, like 2 hours to drive to Loma Linda to go to the bookstore. It wasn't like they had it anywhere, right? So again, I still managed to be a junk food vegan, even because French fries, potato chips, soda pop, cotton, all that stuff is vegan. And, it's an interesting conversation, because I don't feel like I really fit in any group, because the regular ethical, I am an ethical vegan though, but they don't love me because I don't think their food is very healthy. And then, it's really hard being a healthy vegan in this world. You got to find your people.
I totally agree with you. I totally identify with that because, when I went vegan, and it was just 7 years ago, there was maybe one vegan chocolate I could find, one vegan ice cream. But as you say, it is easy to be junk food vegan. Instead of cake, I would just have white toast with a lot of, jam, and peanut butter. That was my kind of, cake. I couldn't buy vegan cake, so I would make my own kind of something sweet. That's the whole idea. And like you say, I'm an ethical vegan. But people are like, so why are you not eating this? Why are you not eating that? That's vegan. And they don't understand. I mean, for me, I believe if you're actually an ethical vegan, you should be a healthy vegan, because you want to, give a good example. And also, if we are all unhealthy vegans and we develop all these diseases and all that, then people are going to say, okay, see, that's why I'm not a vegan.
I agree with you 100%. And that's, people judge you. And if you don't look healthy, and it's not just about weight, but if you don't look healthy, you're not as enrolling in veganism to other people.
Yes. And you know how it is when you're a vegan and you have a cold. It's always
because you're vegan. It doesn't matter what you could get hit by a car. Oh, it's because you're vegan. They always blame. You're so right. That's funny.
I have a lot of teeth problems because of my bulimia. And I don't tell my dentist that I'm a vegan, because once I mentioned it, and he'll say, oh, that explains, the problems you're having with your gum. And I was, no, that's my bulimia. That's what that's when I wasn't actually vegan, I developed that problem. So yes.
That's interesting. So how do you work with people now? Do you work with them in groups, individually, virtually? Tell us about your practice now as a plant-based nutritionist in the UK.
Well, initially, when I finished, after my master's degree, I worked in the community, and it was as a kind of nutritionist, but my colleagues were all kind of non-vegan. So, and it was like I was working with groups, and they would give us actually handouts, what to tell them, like, about nutrition. And it was very challenging for me because I didn't want to tell them, like, if you have a heart problem, you should have 2 portions of oily fish every week. And what I would do is I would say, yes, that is the general advice, but you should actually consume fish because of this and that, and you can get your omega-3s from walnuts, flax seeds, or anything. I kept saying, like, yes, protein is important, but legumes, did you know that legumes have protein? And it is interesting. What I noticed is that a lot of women, they didn't like meat at all, but they would force themselves to have it because of protein. So, and a lot of people were actually relieved when they found out that they can actually have legumes instead of meat. And I think it is sad that people, the general public, actually doesn't know that legumes are a very good source of protein. So you don't need to have animal products to get it. So that job was quite challenging, just because my advice clashed with what the other people in the group, my colleagues were actually promoting and advocating. And actually, one of the clients, he told me, he said, "You confuse me. Everybody else is saying, I should eat low carb for my diabetes. You tell me, no, I can't have it. I don't understand it anymore." And so, yeah, that was quite challenging for me. But I left that job. So, and I work as a freelance nutritionist. So people who come to me, they know I'm a plant-based nutritionist. They know that the advice I'm going to give is plant-based. But I never tell anybody to go vegan. And I have had non-vegans coming to me. And it is interesting because, like, I had somebody suffering from a chronic fatigue syndrome, and nothing had helped him. So it was completely, he was lost, and he came to me because it was almost like his last hope. And I noticed whenever he was eating 100% plant-based, he was feeling much better. But he was a young chap, actually. He was just in his early 30s. He found it challenging to eat plant-based all the time. But then, and I think sometimes we forget that I wouldn't like to call it we kind of pay a price, but we need to be disciplined when it comes to our health. And again, when we are suffering from a chronic disease, that is different than other people. So then we need to be even more disciplined. And I think people don't realize, even this client of mine, for example, he had actually changed his lifestyle around his disease. He would wake up in the morning, do 2 hours of meditation. In the evening, he would do 2 hours of meditation. So he was actually spending and investing a lot of time in getting better, but he wouldn't make that change of actually changing his diet. And so, yes, they know, but I don't push anybody to go vegan. I just show them what a healthy diet looks like. So it is much easier to work as a freelancer, I have to say. So, and yes, it is, especially since pandemic, it is virtual.
Well, how do people hear about you? Is part of your work with plant-based health in the UK? Like, do you guys connect with each other and refer patients to each other?
Yes. It depends. Like, I'm the education lead at Plant-Based Health Professionals UK. So
what does that mean? Tell me what that means, the educational lead. I'm not sure that everybody knows what Plant-Based Health Professionals of the UK is, and that's what this week is devoted to. So maybe talk a little bit about what that is.
So we are actually trying to promote a whole food plant-based diet. So part of that is educating the public about the benefits of a plant-based diet, and educating the vegans about a whole food plant-based diet, how they can be actually a healthy vegan. So we do actually have like webinars. We take part in events, Veg Fest, for example. We give talks. We have created a lot of fact sheets, and we are quite lucky. We have a huge number of members who help us to create those fact sheets. So like kind of, if you have high cholesterol, what do you need to do? Like kind of diet changes, lifestyle changes. So, and we have a pediatrician who is vegan. So she has helped us to actually create fact sheets for, how to feed your child at this age and at that age, and, talk about tofu and why it is actually healthy. So we have a lot of like kind of, fact sheets and videos and webinars, and Dr. Shirin Kassam writes actually a weekly kind of news kind of article, like kind of, what has been happening in the nutrition world, the latest science and evidence. So it is really about educating the public. So that is what we do.
Nice. What's the vegan scene like in general in the UK? whether it's junk food or healthy, is it becoming more?
Yes, it is definitely growing. I have the feeling it is growing, and I feel actually, especially because of the climate change and what else is happening, people are actually interested in eating more plant-based. So, and I think that is good. I mean, one of the things I find is really exciting and promising is that a lot of medical schools now have lifestyle medicine societies, where the students are actually coming together and promoting a lifestyle medicine approach. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that they kind of promote a plant-based diet, but it means they have that. So that gives us an option of actually the chance actually to go there and give them a talk. So it is a good, it's a good way of actually getting to talk to them and telling them about the benefits of a plant-based diet. I think they're just more open to it now.
That's fantastic. I read in your bio, you're a martial artist.
Yes, I do Kung Fu. I used to do karate, but then later changed to Kung Fu. And again, it is, I have been doing it since I was a teenager, but because of my migraine, it was really always on and off. When I was feeling better, I would go every day and train every day. When I wasn't feeling well, I wouldn't do anything. But since I actually transitioned to a whole food plant-based diet, I actually should tell this story because 6 months before I transitioned to a whole food plant-based diet, I injured my shoulder. I had a rotator cuff injury, so it was partial muscle tear. So I couldn't train at all. I couldn't lift my arm. I couldn't do anything at all. And, so I had a steroid injection into my shoulder, and I had just started raising a 1 kg dumbbell and, doing really resistance band exercises, really rehabilitation exercises, really. And when I changed my diet to a whole food plant-based diet, actually my pain got better as well. So I realized that actually a whole food plant-based diet can even help with my kind of athletic performance, with my actually training. So that was quite amazing. And that is why as an athlete, I have been interested in sports nutrition. And as you know, there are so many athletes who go plant-based or, they go more plant-based, and they talk about the benefits they are seeing. So yes.
Do you work with any athletes and do you have an interest in sports nutrition? And is that a little bit different than what you recommend to, say, your average client?
It is different. I worked with a couple of amateur athletes, no professional athletes, and yes, and a lot of my clients who come to me, they go to the gym quite regularly, so they are into exercise, and they come to me because they know I have this interest in sports nutrition. And I think yes, the advice it is still more or less the same, eat a whole food plant-based diet, but it is just more focus on how much exercise they are doing and how much extra calories they need. And depending on, what time of the day they work out, do they need to eat anything before and afterwards? So just working with them to kind of establish a healthy dietary pattern, to help with to make sure that they get the energy they need for their exercise.
Right. So you mostly work with people just one-on-one, like in person?
Yes, actually, most of my job now as a freelance nutritionist is one-on-one.
Okay, because I'm just wondering, because we don't know if anybody from the UK will be watching, but sometimes when they see wonderful guests, they go, well, do they do anything virtually, like any programs or consultations, that kind of thing?
Yes, I actually, I am allowed to see, clients worldwide. So, so not just the UK. And yes, I have had a few clients in Canada before. So
that's fantastic. So all of you this week, do you all know each other? Are you all friends? Tell us about this organization, because it sounds wonderful.
Yes, we do. I mean, obviously since pandemic, we haven't had any in-person events, but I think I have met all of them, or almost all of them, before the pandemic, at the events we were holding. So yes, we do know each other, and we are in regular contact. And if one of us publishes an article in one of the magazines, we share with each other, and we share it on social media. So yes, we are actually kind of in touch.
Nice. When you first decided that you didn't want to be a doctor anymore, did people say like, "Oh my God, what are you doing? You're crazy. You went to medical school. How can you give this career up?" Did you have any family pressure or peer pressure? Like, this is not a good idea.
A lot, actually. I remember I had a colleague, she said, you'll come back. You will be coming back because you're not going to make any money, out there. And it is true. I think when I gave up medicine, actually, I realized how much of my life was around, being doctors. And, my social life, everything I was doing was just with doctors. And my parents, they weren't happy. And my dad, even just before he passed away, I visited him in the hospital, and he was like, so you could go back to medicine, couldn't you? I said, yes, I did it, voluntarily. So nobody actually forced me to leave medicine. If I wanted, I could go back, but I do not want to go back. And I think he was never really happy with my decision. He couldn't understand it. I mean, if he were alive and he would see me now working as a nutritionist and what I'm doing, he would be happy. So that is, a relief.
Well, it'd be different, like if you had been a lifestyle medicine doctor, but, how could you have made a difference the way you were making a difference now in your former career as a doctor,
Yeah, well, as a doctor, I mean, if I didn't know anything about diet, to be honest, I don't think I would still make a difference. I'm sure all the doctors are making a difference, with the amazing work they are doing. Being a doctor is hard work. So, I think I don't want to say that, it was easy at all. And they are making a difference. But I think once you know the role that lifestyle plays, once you actually take a holistic approach, that's the way I see it. It's not just, lifestyle, just taking a holistic approach, because, when we talk about lifestyle, people just assume it is exercise and nutrition, and it is not. We are also talking about stress management and, having good social connections, having relationships with other people and having actually purpose in your life. And to be honest, I think one of the things which helped me, it wasn't, yes, the nutrition played a huge role, but also I found my passion, I found my purpose, when I actually transitioned to a whole food plant-based diet. So it was like kind of, a lot changed for me that day. So, and I think, I am making more, I hope I'm making more of a difference, because I actually, yes, I approach all the different aspects of life rather than focusing on, the physical body and, what pill could fix what, rather than, yeah.
Do most of your clients end up going plant-based after working with you?
Well, those who are not plant-based and they come to me, most of them, they go like kind of 95% plant-based. And I find if the rest of the family goes plant-based with them, then they go, 100% vegan. But if the family continues eating, their usual meals, then they are more likely to actually go back. And I actually just recently, a client contacted me, and he had gone almost 99% plant-based, but the rest of the family was not doing it. And he contacted me and he said, I need help. I know what I have to do, but I can't do it on my own. I need help to get back to, where I used to be. And I think it's just having somebody to tell them, to remind them that actually you, for whatever reason, because of your conditions, whatever, you do need to follow a fully plant-based diet, even if the rest of your family is not.
Yeah,
so,
it's very hard to, when your environment is not conducive to this kind of change,
Yes, I mean, food is so important, to be honest. It has a social aspect to it. We eat, whenever we eat anything, there are some memories attached to it. The first time I ate this, or the time, my grandma made that food for me. So it's not just food. We don't eat just because we need fuel and, nutrients. We eat because we enjoy it. And that's why it is so important to veganize every food you used to have. So I think it is really important actually to do that. And what you are doing is so important. I think, because one of the things I see is that people who go vegan or plant-based, suddenly they realize they don't actually know how to cook. We don't really learn how to cook. And once we learn to have buy pre-made meals and put them in the microwave or in the oven, or somebody told me it's much easier just to put a chicken, in the oven and add some vegetable and that's it, rather than cooking. And that is what most people are used to. So yes.
Are there a lot of vegan restaurants in the UK popping up?
Yes. But sadly, again, whenever I go out and I want just a burger, just a veggie burger, what they have is beyond me. And I'm like, I don't like that kind of burger, because I don't really like the taste of meat anymore. after having been vegetarian for so long, more than 15 years, I'm now vegan for 7 years. I don't like the taste of meat. And so there's a lot of junk food, vegan food out there. And a lot of other restaurants actually do accommodate vegans by having vegan options, but those options tend to be very kind of processed and a lot of like kind of sugary, oily foods, which I cannot have. So I still end up having just a salad, to be honest, when I go out.
I'm just curious, what does your shirt say? It says powered, but I think there must be another word.
Powered by plants.
That's it. I probably should have asked you this at the beginning, but you don't have a British accent.
No, I don't, because I'm actually originally from Iran. I was born in Iran and spent the first few years there. Then my family moved to Austria. So I grew up actually in Vienna. And I actually studied medicine in Vienna, in German. And then I moved to the UK. So yes, that's why I don't have a British accent.
Wow. Well, the country that you grew up in, do you know anything about veganism there?
Iran or Austria?
Well, both actually. Like, are you still in touch with people in both countries? And what do you know about the vegan scene in both of those countries?
Well, in Austria, my family is still there. My mom and my brothers live there. And whenever I go back, I'm like, wow, so many vegan restaurants. I mean, I go back to where my university used to be, the medical school used to be, and there are so many vegan options. Whenever I go visiting, I can't just go and try all of them because there are just far too many. Honestly, it almost feels like every corner there is like kind of vegan this, vegan that. So it is actually huge in Vienna. I don't know about the other cities and towns in Austria, but in Vienna, actually, yes, I think there is a huge vegan population. It's very popular. In Iran, I actually got in touch with a few vegans there. So they have a lifestyle medicine society in Iran, and they are doing amazing work. Actually, there are a lot of vegan activists, and they have all the Dr. Greger videos, translated in Farsi. So yes, I'm in touch with some of them, and they have translated some of our fact sheets from plant-based health professionals. They translated them into Farsi, and they gave it to me just to read and proofread, make sure that it is okay. So yes.
That's fascinating. If you know any lifestyle medicine physicians in Iran that speak English, I'd love to have them on the show, because I'd love to highlight that almost everywhere in the world we can find this.
Yes, I'll see if one of them is actually ready to do that, because I had a panel discussion recently with vegan activists in Asia, and I managed to find somebody in Japan, Hong Kong, Pakistan, and Morocco. And I got in touch with the Iranian kind of vegan activists I know, and none of them was happy actually to come onto the show. So I'll see, but yes, I'll ask them definitely.
Maybe we just need a separate country. Just for vegans, Vegania, maybe, and Dr. Neil Barnard could be
one of the vegan activists from Saudi Arabia, for example, she says she doesn't want to kind of go public and be seen in public, talking about veganism. So I think there are some other social issues probably going on. Yes.
How did you end up in the UK?
I came as a student. I happened to come and do an internship during summer. And I just loved the culture. I loved the fact that it was so multicultural, like kind of, there were so many different cultures. And although I wasn't, speaking a very good English, people would approach me. They would kind of mistake me for a British kind of, South Asian or whatever. I don't know. And I felt like, I belonged here. Whereas in Austria, although I grew up there, I speak the language, I never felt part of the community, part of the country. So I shouldn't say that, but Austria is quite a racist country. So that's why I felt like, here I can actually, yes, it is different. The atmosphere is definitely different. So yeah, that's why I came here.
Nice. Well, one of the questions just about every guest that comes on Chef AJ Live gets is, what do you eat for a day and what do you do for exercise?
Well, I love my oatmeal, my porridge in the morning. I just love it. I actually in the morning when I wake up, I always look forward to my porridge. So I have a porridge, but I add a lot of fruits: banana, apple, berries. So it's like kind of sometimes just for breakfast I have had like 4 or 5 portions of fruits. And then for lunch usually I have. Lunch is actually, again, a bigger meal for me. My dinner is small, something lighter. For lunch, I have, depending on what I have, pasta with vegetables or beans. I love beans, mixed beans with rice or quinoa. Yes. And then for dinner, I have something really light. Again, it can be soup with a piece of bread, but I still have I have a sweet tooth. So I do have there are some, you can buy bars. They are made of dates and raisins. So I have a couple of them every day. And for exercise, I do either my Kung Fu training, I go for a run and do weightlifting. So yeah, depending on what I'm doing that day. So it's a mix of everything.
Nice. Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much for the work you're doing in the UK and being part of this wonderful UK Lifestyle Medicine Week. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed talking to you.
It is my pleasure. And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back tomorrow when we continue with UK Lifestyle Medicine Week and another fabulous guest. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.